I was scrolling the other night, just killing time the way everyone does, thumb moving on autopilot, and I caught myself laughing at something and then immediately forgetting what it even was, like genuinely forgetting within seconds. And that felt weird. Not scary, just odd. I thought, maybe it's just late, maybe my brain's fried, maybe I've had too much coffee. But then I started noticing it more. Conversations feel shorter now. People jump in, jump out. You can almost feel a tension leaking out of the room. Even when you're with someone in person, there's this invisible pull, like their mind is half somewhere else. And I joke to myself, yeah, okay, welcome to modern life, grandpa, but then this other thought crept in, quieter, heavier. What if this isn't just distraction? What if something bigger is actually shifting underneath all of this? And most of us are too busy refreshing feeds to notice it happening in real time. I keep noticing how fast everything feels now. Not just fast like busy, but fast in a strange way, like time itself got compressed. A week disappears. A year feels like a montage. You look back and you're like, wait, did that really happen already? And it's not that life didn't move fast before. It's that now there's no friction, no gaps, no boredom. Any empty space gets filled instantly by noise, information, stimulation, and maybe that's great on paper. Efficiency, right? But humans didn't really evolve for constant input. We evolved for long stretches of nothing, broken up by intense moments. Hunting, waiting, watching the horizon. Now it's the opposite. Constant intensity, almost no waiting. And I keep wondering what that does to a nervous system that's basically still running ancient hardware. You see it in how people talk online. Everything is extreme now. Everything's either the best thing ever or the worst thing that's ever happened. No middle ground. Nuance gets ignored because nuance takes time, and time feels expensive. Algorithms don't reward slow thinking. They reward reaction. They reward emotion. And over time, you start to feel that shaping people, like water shaping rock. Nobody sat down and decided, hey, let's say I'll become more reactive, more anxious, more on edge. It just sort of happened. Quietly, gradually, like evolution. Traits that fit the environment survive. Traits that don't fade out. Sometimes I think about animals introduced into new ecosystems, like when a species gets dropped onto an island and suddenly the rules are different, food's different, predators are different. Over generations, they change. Beaks change. Behavior changes. And no single animal ever realizes what's happening. It's only later that someone looks back and goes, wow, this thing is completely different now. And I wonder if that's us, dropped into this hyper-connected digital ecosystem, adapting in real time, without really understanding what we're trading away to survive in it. AI is a big part of that feeling too. Not in a sci-fi robots taking over way, but in this quieter, weirder way. It's already doing things that used to be deeply human. Writing, creating, analyzing, deciding, and most people are just kind of shrugging and using it because it's useful, because it's fast. And again, nobody voted on this shift. Nobody paused the world and said, hey, are we ready for this? It just showed up, and now it's part of the environment. And once something becomes part of the environment, you don't really question it. Fish don't question water. Work feels different too. The idea of a job, of stability, of a clear path feels fuzzier than it used to. People are grinding harder but feeling less secure. Money feels abstract. Numbers on a screen. Prices going up, value feeling slippery. You can be doing everything right and still feel like you're barely holding on. And that creates this low-level stress that just hums in the background. Not panic, just constant tension, like a muscle that never fully relaxes. And then there's the isolation piece, which is wild because we're more connected than ever. You can talk to anyone, anytime, anywhere, but something about it feels thin, like the connection doesn't have weight. You send a message, you get a response, but it doesn't always land in your body the same way as sitting across from someone, reading their face, hearing the pauses. We're social creatures, but we're social in a very specific physical way. And And I don't think we've fully processed what happens when that gets replaced with text bubbles and avatars and endless scrolling. I think about other moments in history like this. The Industrial Revolution, people moving from farms to factories, cities exploding overnight, machines changing how work was done. At the time, people were probably just trying to survive, put food on the table, adapt. They didn't sit around saying, wow, we're living through a massive transformation of human existence. That's something historians say later. Or the early internet, dial-up days, chat rooms, it felt like a toy at first. A novelty. Nobody was like, yeah, this is going to rewire how humans think, communicate, and perceive reality. But it did. And that's the thing that keeps sticking in my head. The biggest shifts don't feel big while you're inside them. They feel normal. Slightly uncomfortable, maybe, but normal. Like adjusting mid-game. Athletes do this all the time. A strategy changes, tempo shifts, and the ones who adapt survive the game. The ones who don't fall behind. But even the ones adapting don't always know what the game will look like in the final quarter. People seem more anxious now, but also weirdly numb. Like they're overloaded emotionally, so the system just dampens everything. Bad news, good news, it all blends together. Doom scrolling next to memes, next to ads, next to someone's vacation photos. The brain doesn't know what's important anymore, and when everything feels important, nothing really does. That messes with meaning, with motivation, with how you decide what matters. And I keep coming back to this idea that progress might be moving faster than humans can emotionally process. Technologically, we're sprinting. Psychologically, we're jogging. Biologically, we're still basically walking, and that mismatch creates friction, confusion, a sense that something's off, even if you can't quite name it, like background radiation. You don't see it, but it affects you. What's strange is that on the surface, life looks more advanced than ever. Smarter tools, more options, more convenience. But underneath, people feel less certain about the future, about themselves, about what a good life even looks like anymore. The old scripts don't work the same way. Go to school, get a job, buy a house, retire. That story feels outdated, but the new story isn't clear yet. So we're in this in-between space, which is uncomfortable for humans. We like narratives, we like direction. Maybe that's why there's so much noise, so much content, so much distraction. Silence gives space for these thoughts to surface, and they're not always pleasant. It's easier to keep scrolling than to sit with the feeling that the ground is shifting and you don't know where it's going to settle. I don't think this is good or bad. That's too simple. It just is. Like weather, you don't blame the storm, you notice it, you adjust, or at least you try to. And maybe years from now, people will look back at this moment and say that was the turning point. That was when everything quietly changed. And we'll realize we were already living in the future without recognizing it as such. And the unsettling part, the thing that lingers with me late at night, isn't fear of where things are going. It's the thought that by the time we clearly understand what's shifting, it won't be something we're entering anymore. It'll be something we've already adapted to, something we already are, and we'll wonder when it happened and how we didn't see it sooner.